to welcome everyone to the reference desk. It's the weekend of the 11th and 12th of June of 2022. And today we're hearing from Colleen Dawes. Colleen is a lawyer by profession, and she works in Haifa in Israel. And in addition to her work, she has had a long-term interest in making Baha'i materials available online through her portal, Baha'i eBooks. And so it's fitting that Colleen take part in this series, and she's with us today to talk about the origin of the project, its conception and purposes, the challenges she's faced along the way, and perhaps her vision for where this project might lead in the future. So Colleen, welcome to the reference desk, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Graham. For people present, I've known Graham nearly my whole Baha'i life. He was in my first Baha'i community. Anyway, so it's nice to be participating in this one of many of Graham's projects. Anyway, so this has been a very interesting exercise for me because when Graham invited me to speak, and apart from the time difference issues, it caused me to reflect on how I did create the website and what events or choices I've made in my life that's led me to this point in time. And actually, it's been a very interesting exercise because I hadn't really thought about some of them ever in relation to the Baha'i eBooks website. So in 1973, when I was at university, I was doing a business degree, and I chose to do a subject called data processing, obviously very early days of computing. And I absolutely loved coding, and I learned BASIC and COBOL, I think languages that are not even used now. But my love for coding was so strong that I seriously considered changing my major. But then I decided, no, I'll stick with my business major. It was accounting, and I'll use computing as a tool. So my love for technology has actually started in 1973. Although maybe one could say it started earlier. I was passionate about using my slide ruler. So anyway, I'm a bit of a nerd. So jump a number of years, and I studied after I finished my business degree, and I worked in tax accounting. I then studied law, and then after law, I decided to do graduate studies in international law. And then in 1990, I moved to Haifa, and I served as the head of the legal office there. And I've been in Haifa since 1990. This is my 32nd year. And I'm now phasing towards, I'm transitioning to retirement, and there's a period of handover, and I'll probably be there for a couple more years. So I now have an advisory position in the office, which is actually, it's a very nice, it's a nice role to have after all the stresses and trials of many, many years in the position. So in 1993, the World Centre was contacted by Project Gutenberg, asking if they could host the sacred writings on their website. And the House of Justice made the decision, yes, that would be great. And I was asked to respond, and I drafted the terms of reference for the use of the sacred writings. And of course, I was wanting to know more about Project Gutenberg myself, so I went and checked the website and was quite impressed by what Project Gutenberg does in relation to the sharing of public domain books. So that's 1993. In 2003, I had a fire in my apartment, and I basically lost everything, except some ceramics. I lost a lifetime collection of books, music, and many things. It was, without a doubt, personally traumatic. And I kept saying this mantra to myself. It's just stuff. It's just stuff, you know. The fire brigade said to me that had this happened in the middle of the night, the smoke inhalation would have caused me to go deeper into sleep and I would have died. And so what happened was that it seems that my apartment, which was on the top floor of an apartment building, was hit by lightning. And they found the flashpoint. So it was ruled an act of God. And so that was 2003. So I slowly developed my computer skills in relation to replacing my music, which I had hundreds of CDs, which I've collected since 1983. And I then replaced those hundreds of CDs with digital music. And then I also got some other things, and I replaced the sacred writings with physical books. And I realized, to my shame, that what was most traumatic for me in the loss of my books was the fact that I had lost my collection of first edition books. And I realized that it wasn't the content I was upset about losing, but a collection of first edition books. And I think that realization was a bit disturbing to me personally, and I was embarrassed for myself. So in 2007, Apple came out with the first iPhone. And in 2008, September 2008, the iPod Touch and the iPhone and an App Store. And when they announced the App Store and people could create apps for it, an app that allowed you to read books on an iPhone or iPod Touch was one of the many apps. So I got quite excited and I thought, I could put the sacred writings that's on Project Gutenberg, download it onto an iPod Touch, because I couldn't afford to buy an iPhone. And so a friend bought me an iPod Touch when he and his family came on pilgrimage. And that was December 26, 2008. So I was very excited to spend the night downloading all the Project Gutenberg's collection of the sacred writings, put it on my iPod Touch, and then I would have the sacred writings with me. So then I looked at it and thought it was quite ugly. And I don't know why, but the first thought was, I wonder if I can do better. So from December 27th, I would come home from the office, I would put my handbag at my front door, go straight to my computer, and I taught myself how to create ebooks. I coded in HTML. I learned HTML. I tried to find what's called WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, HTML editors. And anyway, so it took me some months to get to a stage where I was happy with the finished product. And because I'm not in computing, and this was just a side issue and a personal interest, there would be people who could have done it very quickly. But the one quality I have is persistence. So after some months, I got to the stage where I felt like I had something that looked decent. So I, like any other Baha'i in the world, I wrote to the World Center. So even though I'm in Haifa, it makes no difference. If I want to do something, I have to write to the World Center officially. Sorry, my camera's got on. I've got it on this center focus or something, and so it moves a bit if I'm moving. I'll try to stand still. Anyway, so I wrote and said, would you like my ebooks I've created of the sacred writings to put on the Baha'i Reference Library? Took some months to get a reply. And the answer was, we're not sure where we want to go with digital books yet, but we don't think this is what we want to do. Now, in the meantime, I probably had shared the sacred writings in ebook format with a number of friends, including friends around the world. And I'd say I had more and more requests nearly daily for me to share them. So then I wrote back and said, could I set up a website with Baha'i ebooks? And again, it took some months to get an answer. And in November 2009, I got the answer to say, yes, I could create a Baha'i ebooks website. So then how do I create a website? So I knew I have two friends in Haifa at that stage, young guys, but with great computer skills. They're also Australian. From the same city in Australia I had most recently come, and that was Adelaide. And that's how I knew them, from Adelaide. So the three of us spent a couple of weeks building the website. I mean, really, I should say they did. I created the ebooks, we put covers on it, we did whatever additional work we needed to make them more attractive. Okay. And we launched on December 7th, 2009. So at the beginning, it was relatively easy to create the ebooks because the goal was sacred writings. That was the initial goal, just to do the sacred writings. And the Baha'i Reference Library had sacred writings online. So I had it in Word format. I converted from Word to HTML, HTML to EPUB, and at the beginning, I did three formats: EPUB, PDB, and Mobi. PDB, don't even use it anymore. So then I canceled PDB, just did EPUB and Mobi being what Kindle uses. Anyway, so we did no advertising. We hoped it would spread quickly through word of mouth. And I contacted some friends around the world. I'm not big on social media at all, but I asked friends of mine who were to put something out about the Baha'i eBooks website. And so over a period of time, the numbers slowly grew. And so the website has been up now for over 13 years, 13 and a half years. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the analytics for you shortly. So as I said, the initial goal was to create the sacred writings and share them freely, because I loved the idea of Project Gutenberg. And also I loved Wikipedia, where information should be shared freely. And this idea that, you know, when you hear about Wikipedia, how it started, and at the same time Wikipedia started, Microsoft decided it would invest hundreds of millions of dollars in creating an online encyclopedia called Encarta. Hundreds of millions of dollars they invested. And what happened? They did it at the same time. Wikipedia just went crazy and is one of the top 10 websites used in the world. And Encarta doesn't even exist anymore. So this idea that people can give freely of their time to share information is, I think, part of what we see as a transition in the new world. And that is something I wanted to do. So it's been a fundamental principle that the ebooks will always be free, whatever is online. So slowly we added some other languages, started with Spanish and some French, and we've got 120 English language books online. Then we've got some Persian, and of course the issue dealing with right to left rather than left to right. And so I've had some help with other languages, and I've also taught some people in some other countries how to create ebooks. So I was contacted by the Chinese committee and showed them how to create ebooks. I had some meetings with some other publishing trusts around the world as well. I contacted many because another fundamental principle is that everything on the website must have copyright permission. And another fundamental principle is that the Baha'i eBooks website is not a publisher of a first publisher. It is only a republisher. I must admit, I wanted to be a first publisher, but I was strongly counseled not to go that route. There's too many rules, and that I shouldn't do that. The other thing is, what was important for me, because remember at the very outset when I downloaded Project Gutenberg's books, I didn't like the look of it. So the look of the ebook must be such that it's appealing visually, so that you get the same level of satisfaction as if you're reading a physical book, but it's in mobile format. So, of course, I've done other books for myself that I cannot put online. And one of the things I've realized about myself, the trauma of the fire, I cannot read paper books anymore. So after I finished doing the sacred writings and I had the word text, how do I create an ebook of something that's not already available online? So I buy the physical book, I cut it up, I scan it, I OCR it, and I have to edit. And so I want to show you what some of these, and the other thing is, you've got to bear in mind, the software I use is generally free software, because it's also an important principle that it's not because I have money, which I don't have, that I am doing this. It should be something that anyone can do with limited resources. And so that's also a fundamental principle. So I'm going to share what some of these books pages look like. So this is a page from Advancement of Women after it's been OCR'd and converted into Word format. Isn't it awful? Can you see how? Imagine I had to go through line by line to correct that text, right? So now I'm going to show you after some editing. So again, you'll see. So for example, you'll see Baha'u'llah now has diacriticals. The Universal House of Justice is generally correct, but there's still a lot to do. The Baha'is are in there, it's correct. Rezvan is still wrong. Abdul Baha has not been fixed yet, except the word Baha throughout. So what you can do a number of global corrections, but then you've got to go back and continue. So it's a page by page correction. And some books take much longer than others to correct, particularly when there's lots of diacritics in it. And anyway, so before I continue, any questions so far? Okay. Now, so some of the challenges we've faced is we're onto the fourth iteration of the website. So originally I had two talented web developers help me here. And then they left Haifa, they returned home, they got married, had families, they got a life. So they said they're sorry, but they couldn't continue anymore. So then another friend with his own web company helped, and and some of the open tool software I use, it took a while to find better software. So to create an ebook, I use Calibre now. Calibre is free software, and but Calibre back in 2008 wasn't the way it is now. I can't remember the name of the WYSIWYG HTML editor I used. Again, time has passed, and I do a lot. I was using Notepad++, and again, that's free. And there were some other websites that I used to create book covers. I just use paint.net. I'm not a graphic artist by any stretch. That's obvious by looking at the covers, but creating the ebook cover is, for me, like having dessert. So after going through creating the ebook, getting it to a stage where it looks presentable, no doubt there will be some errors in it, I get to design a book cover. And I'm not an artistic person. I come from a very artistic family, but I actually enjoy the artistic side of creating an ebook cover. And of course, there are far better people out there who do it. who can do it. And I have asked for help from those talented people, but many people have other projects of their own. So somebody may say, oh, yes, I'd love to help. And they'll do one, maybe even two book covers, and that's all I'll get. And when you've done hundreds of book covers, because you're doing it in a number of different languages as well as English, you need someone who may be happy to do more book covers. We had somebody who did do a few book covers, but he didn't want to use images. And the general consensus I had from a number of people is they love seeing images. So I've got some very good friends who take great photos. Rod Clarkin's one of those good friends. I've used a lot of Rod's photos. And then there's, depending on whether I need an old photo, say from the house of Abdullah Pasha back in the 1910s, I might go and use the reference libraries, reference Baha'i media photos as well, which can be used. So, okay. How many people are using the website? Okay, so okay, we've had 250,000 users globally in every country and region and territory of the world have now accessed the website. So this is the top 14 people. Is this 1 year? No, it's all time. Now, this is individual users, but they often come back many times, and I'll get to where they come from. Now, you'll see, for example, obviously, the United States is the largest country, and Canada, and then Australia. Australia, probably because initially we, 3 Australians set up the website, but I'm the only one who still remains, and I currently use a company that's in Canada, a Baha'i-owned company, that has completely redesigned the website again. And number 4 is Israel, but I'm going to explain Israel a little shortly. And then if you look down, I'm going to now go to the next page to show you the next lot of countries, so that you'll get a feel. So it's 238 countries and territories of the world. It's actually every country listed on Google visited. So China, I think it must have been on the first page, has about 2,200. South Africa is very high. And again, on the first page, Brazil was quite high. So it's not just English language speakers who use it, but there are many others. So breakdown of people using the website by age. So not surprisingly, most of the users are below the age of 34. Though curiously, when I ask some young people if they've been to the website or they use it, they say to me, oh no, I like the touch and feel of paper. I'm like, you're too young. You're too young to feel that way. But anyway, so what can you say? What is surprising to me is I have many friends who are using it, and they are definitely over 55. And so it seems strange that the number for those 55 and over is only 11% in total, whereas so many young people that I know are not interested in using it. So the next, gender. More males use the website than females. It's maybe that's part of the technology aspect. I'm not sure. Anyway. And finally, breakdown of demographics. And this is very interesting one. New and returning visitors. Every month, we have more people, more new visitors. So, for example, the last month, 3,500 new visitors visited the website alone, just in the past month. So this is a fairly constant number that's been, that I've seen since 2010. 66% of people who visit the website are new, and only 34% are returning visitors. So, cities. Oops, wrong one, sorry. Right. So the #1 city of the world where more people visit the website is Tel Aviv. And I think it's because when people come on pilgrimage, they hear about the website and they spend time downloading. And so I don't know if you can see these large enough. Sydney, Toronto, but in the last month, the #1 city of the world where more people visited the website was Shanghai, which is quite interesting. So maybe because they're in lockdown. Okay. No, sorry. And something else that I want to show you. So how do people find out about the website? So direct people who actually visit BahaiEbooks.org directly is the majority, 120,000 people. Then Google search, and then the rest. Now, there was 2,500 different ways people entered the website, but these are the main ones. I only did the top 19. So Baha'i blogs, great referral site. And we have a few names: BahaiEbooks.net, BahaiEbooks.org, and BahaiEbooks.com. And so we used to have a feed burner, but our recent iteration, we no longer have feed burner. We only have a Facebook page and a Twitter account. But Twitter isn't one of the key sites where people hear about the website. Palabra Publications. We have a number of Palabra Publications books on our site. The Baha'i Bookstore in the US also refers people to the web page. And Baha'i Indonesia is a surprising one. So we have some friends in Indonesia who have been sharing information about the website. So one of the things that COVID did was gave me a particular piece of information that was unexpected. So from March 15th, 2020, Israel was in lockdown, and no Baha'i pilgrims or visitors could enter the World Center. So for nearly 2 years, Haifa was closed to the Baha'is of the world. So one of the things I've always wondered is, I think Israel is probably the only country in the world where I can actually tell if people are not Baha'is downloading from the website. So I went online and decided to do a search to find out who accessed the website during COVID when no Baha'is, except those serving in Haifa at the World Center, were here. And this was surprising. So we had 436 people in Tel Aviv, and this is not in Haifa, use the website. 143 in Haifa definitely sounds about right, because not everyone at the World Center even knows about Baha'i ebooks or is interested. The other cities are much smaller in number. Netanya, Ashdod, Jerusalem. So Jerusalem, we have, there's a Baha'i studies department at Hebrew University on Mount Scopus. So I was surprised it was only 4 in Jerusalem who accessed the website, and a couple of others. But look at the numbers in Tel Aviv. So I can tell you for a fact that these are not Baha'is. So one of the pieces of information I wondered is how the website is being used. So obviously, I don't think I have the page. Okay, so most of the people who use the website are downloading onto an iPhone or an iPad mini, though there are 2,500 different devices that the ebooks are on, many different types of phones. The iPad mini is the iPad is the main tablet being used, and the Kindle Fire. So a lot of people are using the ebooks to download for study classes. Now, we've been able to determine that about 7 million ebooks have been downloaded from the website. And there are times when I can tell when a study class is studying a particular subject somewhere in the world. Often you'll see a run on the Will and Testament of Abdu'l-Baha or the World Order of Baha'u'llah. And it's like a huge number suddenly over a 1-week period. And you think, okay, there's a study class going on. And I know, for example, in Haifa, that people may join a class here, but they don't have the resources to buy a book, or the book is out of stock. And during COVID, we definitely had that situation. Some books, we weren't able to get in. And so people then went to the website to download the ebook because it's free. And even though it's free, there are still people who prefer to have the print version. Okay. So we know that not everyone who accesses the website downloads all the books, though I would have thought that would be a given. But it's about between 20 and 25% of all the visitors to the site download all the ebooks. A number of others may only download between 10 and 20 books, and then there are a few who only do 1 or 2. Okay. So definitely people are using the ebooks to have a whole Baha'i collection on a mobile device or for a study class. But one of the ways that the ebooks are being used, which is actually something that made me feel exceedingly happy, is when I received emails telling me, and I've had a number of these over the years, I recently signed my declaration card and someone told me about your website and I was able to go online and I got a whole Baha'i library. Thank you very much. And that really just brought so much joy to my heart. So that's probably one of the things that's really just so uplifting for me. The other one that's totally took me by surprise, I've heard a few examples, but not as many as the number who write to say, I've just signed a declaration card, I've downloaded the whole library, is, oh yes, I've heard about Baha'i ebooks. That's how actually I came across the Baha'i faith. I decided I wanted to read more about what the Baha'is do. So I came across the website, I downloaded some books, I read them, and then contacted Baha'is in my area, and I became a Baha'i. I was like, wow, I mean, really something special when you can hear, you can be teaching. You've got a website that's a silent teacher. We know the houses of worship around the world are silent teachers, and here we are even this website is doing that. So that's made me very, very happy after all these years. Now, what's disappointing, however, is the number of people who still have never heard of the website. And I was talking to someone who's in a travels a lot for the faith, and he had never heard of it. And I mean, now he has, because I've told him, but he was quite surprised. He said his wife said, oh no, I've heard of it, and their son had heard of it, and they all had the ebooks, but for whatever reason, he knew nothing about it. In relation to the future, one of the major difficulties that the website has faced, and we had recently 2 years of very severe hacking, meant that we had to move to a whole new a web server and a whole new format. For years, we used WordPress, and because WordPress is cheap and easy enough to create a website, but because the word Baha'i is in the title, we've suffered a number of serious attacks on the website, and because the website has the word Baha'i in it, I needed to seek help to find a long-term solution. So eventually, this is why we're in the 4th iteration of the website. We went with following advice, went to a company called Paradigm Consulting. It's a Baha'i-owned company, but it's just got lots of talented people. So we completely redesigned the website. We redesigned how the books are on a server, how to protect it from future hacking. It meant it took some time to create the website, but it's now secure. And I don't have to have the added stress of a website under attack, as I've had a number of times over the years. So, as far as long-term goals are concerned, looking at what happens, I'm getting older, and it's important that the ebook site always be free. How do I protect it so that long after I'm gone, and if this and the website has to adapt to future technologies, how do we fix it so that it's protected, it's always free? And so there's been a number of discussions about that, a number of discussions with different publishing trusts. So always trying to see what is the best future for the website. I do not want any of it monetized ever. And I want that absolutely guaranteed, that everything in there is always free. And one of the things I've been having discussions with some publishing trusts is if they would give permission for their older books to be allowed to be free on Baha'i eBooks website. Because as I said, everything must be, we must have copyright clearance. We must have permission to make it available. There can never be any possibility that someone could say, oh, you put something on the website and the author or the original publisher is contrary to their wishes. We can't have that. It's got to be protected. So that's the things I'm looking at the moment, adding more languages. The problem is at the moment it's just me. And when I am fully retired, I can devote more time to it. And that will probably be within the next couple of years or so. Anyway, so any questions or anything else?
Colleen, thank you. That's been a tremendous overview of the site. I noticed you didn't just go to the front page of the site and scroll down.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
do you want to
I
do
can
that
do
before
that
we go to
because
questions? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So let me go to. All right. Thank you, Graham. I meant to do that before. So the latest iteration of the website is so, can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's so simple to use that, in fact, it didn't occur to me to share it. Okay, so when you enter the website, it's just this is English. This is the homepage, and you just scroll down, and there's every book that's currently online in English. So I'll go back up in a minute. I just wanted to give you an idea of what's on here. Right, so let's just say, go back up, and it's sorted at the moment by collection. And collection starts with Baha'u'llah, then the Bab, Abdul Baha, Shawki Effendi, the Universal House of Justice, and then others. Okay, so now you can sort by updated, so the latest that's on there. So there's Resvan Messages 1950 to 2022. Okay, so if you wanted to, there's your formats, EPUB, MOBI, and PDF. So you would just press one of these. Or if you really wanted to, you could tap the book title and it gives you a little blurb. And then again, you get the choices. Right, so you would just say download EPUB, and then, so I can't do that on this. Okay, but so that's what you do. Now we're adding in PDFs slowly. There's the advancement of women. Can I do a little bit of a self-advancement of women? This is the most extraordinarily thorough book written about the subject of gender and equality that's actually ever written. There's not a topic on this subject that's not covered in detail. I just wish this was the book that everyone read, because it covers everything. It's so impressive. I'm in awe of it. And it was one of those books that I was so pleased that I got permission to make it available on the website. And particularly when the whole question of gender issues, all forms of discrimination and bias and prejudice are at the forefront of everyone's minds. The last few months, because of the whole questions of racial prejudice, the war in Ukraine, gender issues, we made a point of adding more books on the subject of crisis and victory, message on world peace, justice, unity and peace, overcoming oppression. So, and then if we go back to books by title, now, of course, most browsers allow you to search. So if you want to know if a book is on the website, you just go and search it and find it. After the hack, I haven't been able to go back online as quickly as possible to add some of the other languages back in, but I hope to be doing that soon. Okay, so yes, it's been very, very blessed to have been able to give permission to make a number of these books available. As I said, Palabra Publications has been very generous in giving permissions as well. So, how's that? Now, Lee, anything else on the website people might like to see? It's a very simple website to use, very straightforward. And in fact, so much so that each month we have a few 3,000 to 5,000 people visiting the website, and less than 100 people go to the help page, because that's how easy it is to use. Yeah. So that's the help page. Whereas in the past, we had a lot of people looking at reading the help page. So the very fact that the help page, so few use it now, it means that the website is easy to use.
Fine.
Thanks very much, Colleen. We have 3 questions for you already. So Caroline first, Andrew, and then Louise.
Okay.
Well, I want to say thank you. In 2014, I went on pilgrimage, and one of my prayers was the ability to read Chogi Effendi and comprehend him. I have a very severe form of dyslexia. After that, I was given my first iPad and discovered your website. And it's amazing how many of the issues were self-resolving. Now, my interest is in the scanning. I've recently scanned in like Child of the Covenant.
Yes.
Because we have some members who are blind, they can't read print books anymore. They need the enlargement. Well, I've been trying to take the book from the scan into more of an EPUB, at least for Unlimited, because we don't have copyright permission. It's owned by George Arnold.
Right. And I don't either.
Yeah, I know you don't. I've looked. And
Yes.
Kindle doesn't have it either, because I have the Kindle app, because some of his other books are on Kindle. But so it's like you were saying, take it through the OCR software, which I have, and you convert it to Word in the edit. But what do you do after that?
I run it through Calibre to and then edit it in HTML. Now, okay, I can actually help you with this, because I have done that book for myself.
Have you? Oh, that would be.
I've done all the books of Adib Tarzadeh.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get Tears a Day and Baluzi, because we're doing a lot of study, because the United States has been asked to really focus on the covenant.
Right.
And so I'm trying to help the facilitator for these people who can't read print books.
So you're trying to convert them into some form.
Some things, at least a scan that can flow through a text through the Adobe Acrobat, the flow, so font can be enlarged.
Right.
Or like an EPUB or in a Kindle, because that's the key, is to getting the text to where these people who are visually impaired so that they can read it. And then
I remember
dyslexia.
Yes, I remember when I wanted to read Memorials, Memories of 9 Years in Akka, I contacted George Ronald to say, could you please make that about, because I had gone and created the ebook for myself, but it required too much effort to make it look clean. And bearing in mind my psychological issue of not reading paper, they did create it. I was very happy about that. So have you spoken to them about doing Child of the Covenant?
No, I didn't. It didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, that would be what I would suggest, because they have indicated that if there is interest, they will do it. And I think all the Tarzadeh and Bayuzi books should be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And
I had permission from the copyright holder, not of the publisher, to make them available. But in all fairness to George Ronald, they had the most brilliant publishing contract with the authors I've ever seen. And we're talking about a publishing contract from the 1980s. And they said, no, we have electronic digital publishing rights. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't even considered in the 1980s. And they sent me the contract. And it was the most impressively worded legal contract I've ever seen. And they were right. It was covered. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, what harm can it do?
Good for George Ronald. Yeah, really. Good for George Ronald. So, but they've been very, very good in relation to creating ebooks. And so that's who I would suggest.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's where we're having, diverting. It's part of digital accessibility. It's part of accessibility for the deaf and hard of hearing. Task force is reaching out to create an office of accessibility here in the States.
Right.
Because it's becoming more and more of an issue. I'm so
Caroline, thanks for that first question. For those with the hand up, I've got you all noted. Andrew is next.
Thank you. Thanks, Graham. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. And my question is, how do you decide which book to put up? Is it demand, or just what you're interested in, or what you can get copyright on? Or?
Yes, well, basically, I'm always looking for books that, because as somebody once said, you know, I've done the low-hanging fruit, the books low-hanging fruit, and now it's like getting harder and harder, because of course, as soon as there's a new translation of sacred writing art, I've actually been able to put the ebook out within a day once that's released, and that's been a goal to get it out there as soon as possible. Same with Resbar Messages, though I did have a period of time, well, because of some other issues that had nothing to do with the ebooks, that created some difficulties in getting that done. But so now that, so with the recent global situation, I've been focusing, I'm getting another one up at the moment on Baha'i World Volumes. Have some very good articles, compilation collections. So I've been creating ebooks out of those. And because the articles are just, they're impressively written material. And why not create another medium for the reading of these books? So there's one on the pandemic, and there's some on agriculture as well. So I'm working on those at the moment. And I make a point of adding in the images. The one that I want to do, but as I said, everything I use, all the software I'm using is free. And I am going to do it, I need to do it soon, is add the images to Dawnbreakers, because I was given the images by the Baha'i library. I've got permission, I've got great images, great resolution. And I have to manually add 350 images. But I think it'll be appreciated by many people to have Dawnbreakers with images. Yeah. So that's a plan.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Colleen. That's breaking news. that's going to be high resolution.
No, it's actually out there. I'm going to have to get doing that quickly.
That's wonderful. We'll get cracking after this presentation. Put your handbag down at the entrance and get started. Louise, please.
Yeah, hi, Colleen.
Hi, Louise.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate this website. And I stumbled upon it a number of years ago, maybe 10 years ago. So it must have been quite recently after you started it up. Mm-hmm. And I knew you were involved, but I had no idea you were alone doing this. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah. So, but I particularly like how easy it is to use. It's easy to download. It's easy to read. It's easy on the eyes, right?
Yeah.
And so just great job. Well done. And
thank you. Thanks, Louise. Yeah.
And the other thing I want to say that just an aside, the young like print. I don't know what it is, because it's really our generation that is gaga about digital new stuff, right? Yeah. But they love print. I see them all the time. They're down there, with this great big huge print tome in their backpack. And I don't know what it is. They're not into ebooks at all.
Yeah. So yes, it surprises me too.
Yeah. So great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Louise. Yeah.
Thanks, Louise. Adib?
Yes, it really was a wonderful presentation and a really tremendous effort on your part. Thank you. I didn't realize you've been doing this alone either. Like Louise, I've been following your project for several years. I've had a very basic Kindle for a good 10 years or so. So maybe in at least that much time I've been following it and benefited from your output in that time. So yes, I echo her praise.
Thank you.
My question for you, and I guess on reflection, it's more like a request, is I don't know who works on the Persian ebooks on your site, but I wonder, they're wonderful. They're beautifully formatted and there's nothing out there like them. I mean, Baha'i or otherwise. And that being the case, because they're so first rate and so polished, I wonder if whoever is behind that effort would consider doing some kind of recorded webinar where they walk people through the process of creating. I do think there is definitely a desire for that kind of training, even if it's rather small. I say that because in the past few years alone, I've gotten at least a couple of queries from Iranian Baha'i authors on how to take something they've made and make a Persian ebook out of it. And I've never known what to say to them. And I've, scoured the depths of Google and YouTube and come up dry every single time. I think I tried to make a test ebook once by importing a very simple Word doc into Calibre, and that worked well enough, but it's rudimentary, and that was years ago.
Yes.
And I don't think you could even handle Persian text very well back then, since there are a lot of challenges the software would have had to contend with. Sometimes text gets converted into gibberish rather than actual Persian characters, and the text has to be contiguous because the letters often are joined together. The whole right-align thing that you mentioned, or rather, it's not even right-align. The text actually has to be set, the direction has to be set from right to left. So anyway, all those thorns in the path make it so that the path to making such an ebook in Persian doesn't seem very clear to me, but evidently you've cracked the code. So I wonder if there's a way for you to share that knowledge.
Okay. All right. So I'll tell you how we did it. So I taught the person who did the Persian how to do it English, and then she worked on it, how to reverse it, basically. And so it took her a couple of months, but once she did it, suddenly she said, "Oh, I got it. Anyway, she used to be here, and she's returned to Canada. So I will ask her. I'll follow up on that.
Wonderful.
And I'll let her know. She'll be thrilled to hear that. But yeah, she's the one. She worked tirelessly. It took some time to get it to a stage because, as I said, it's got to look right. That's the visual part of ebooks is something that's important to me. And what probably would frustrate many people, I can do an ebook quite quickly, but getting it to look right can take a few more weeks. And I know many people would give up, and I've been frustrated sometimes myself, but maybe I'm just have a stubborn personality or something. Yeah, and as I said, if I had better computer skills, it wouldn't take so long. But I mean, I've got the skills I have, and I've just got to put up with it. And it's my hobby, and so it's a hobby. It's okay. Yeah.
There's a fine line between.
You've got to do something in your spare time, huh?
Exactly. There's a fine line between stubbornness and tenacity, and I think you fall more on one side than the other. So thank you. Again.
Thanks.
Well, it's one of the qualities that is shared by the webmasters that have featured on this series, is that tenacity. I'll mention that at the end. Steve Cooney is next.
Yes, thanks, Colleen. That was very insightful. I assume that all of the content on your site is you've created yourself.
Yes.
But there is a need now for someone to take the role of aggregating all the ebooks into a master catalog. Have you thought about taking that approach? Because the ebooks are everywhere. There's literally thousands of them now.
Yes.
So
well,
that's what draws people to your site. I think it's why you've got an increase in patronage, is because you're adding new content. I think new content correlates with your new visitor count.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a need. There's definitely a need for someone to pull it all together because it's quite vast now. I don't know if you've thought about that. So you could even have a new site. You can have your Colleen's originals, but there is a need for someone to pull all of the threads together because it's proliferating in multiple languages everywhere, and it's very difficult to keep track of it.
So are you talking more about other languages? For example, German?
No, but I mean, all languages. Yeah, I mean, but even in English, you could just do an English aggregation site.
Yeah,
there's a lot of material.
You've got. I'm limited. I can only republish, and so that's a strict rule for my website.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can still maintain a copyright notice, and you can still issue the publication under a Creative Commons license, right? So I mean, there's lots of ways to, as long as you have the permission of the copyright holder. But many of these books are open access anyway by default.
Right.
That's
Yeah, but if they haven't been published by, say, a publishing trust, I can't put them on my website. If they're self-published, for example, I can't publish them, republish them.
It'll depend on the license, I guess. So.
Yeah, I can't even put them on the website. I'm not allowed to. I have to follow strict rules.
The Creative Commons license.
No, I can't do that. Yeah. It must have already been, a physical copy must have been published. And I am a republisher of the digital form only.
Right. So that's your narrow interest.
That's my limit. That's my limitation. That's the limitation I've been given. Yeah.
Okay. When you say being given, is it some external constraint or just self-imposed?
Oh, no, it's not self-imposed at all. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right.
Because I have the word Baha'i in the name, Baha'i ebooks, because I have been given permission to use the word Baha'i, then it must follow certain rules. I must follow certain rules.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Now, if I wanted to call it Glad Tidings ebooks, then I probably wouldn't be able to publish a number of the books I have, but I could put up other stuff. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Yeah.
Fine.
Another question then about your OCR software. What did you actually use for that?
Adobe Acrobat Pro.
Oh, okay.
I also am using Abby Fine Reader, but they just are not able to do some. I think it's a book that's been printed in the 1990s. It must, when they read it, it reads it strangely. So older text. Now, newer text, they're scanning much better. But like the Advancement of Women, it was published in 1999. It was shocking. Yeah, it was so difficult, so challenging. But the book is in my mind, was so important. I put the effort in.
Sure. And
it took me in my spare time, but not only doing 3 years to create the ebook, because it was so challenging. Every page was such a mess. Yeah. And then it has a couple of thousand footnotes, and I have to manually link every footnote. You know, so yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, it's a labor of love. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that. Colleen's asking us to respond with both admiration and commiseration, or adding these mixed emotions there. But that's very good. Next is Stephen Collins, please.
Hi, I'm kind of first of all, I'm actually a repeater. I've been to your site a couple of times, but I may not show up as a single person because I've come up over the years platforms, so things are different. So I may show up as some of your stats on different ways. I had the thought, in terms of this, which books on the subset, you've got three different people asking about what books can you really put on here. My question is, are you aiming at formal Baha'i scholarly books, scripture books, these kinds of things? Because I'm aware of a Baha'i science fiction fantasy author who has a volume that she's released for free and copyright, kind of an honorarium version of a collection of her books, some short stories basically. And also I know a non-Baha'i author who contributed a Baha'i framed story in a Muslim collection of sci-fi fantasy books, short stories. And the volume itself eventually was released for free. The problem is I'm not even sure the institution exists anymore. So I'm reaffirming that the permission is free. But are you restricting away from that is what I guess I'm asking.
Well, basically, by the sounds of it, they weren't published by a publishing trust or a publishing.
One was by Palabra. One of them was a non-Baha'i
Oh, one was done by
institution.
Palabra?
Yeah, the Maya Catherine Bonhoff, according to my memory now, she released a collection of her short stories, not exhaustive, just a few short stories, and she ran through Palabra. But the non-Baha'i author wrote a short story. It was by a non-Baha'i publishing trust, but it was a formally published, and then there was an electronic version, and they said it. Ultimately, they let it go for free.
Mm. I'll have to look into that. I think on the latter, no. It's not that I'm trying to only put scholarly works up. I'd love to put children's books up. I got permission to do some of Kaiser Barnes' children's books. And I realized that the best format for those books were probably PDFs. And at that stage, we weren't doing PDFs. So I had created a couple of those books, and I think I should go back and do those. Because I kept thinking, you really need to have that on, say, a tablet. Because if you're reading it to children, that would be the best way. Anyway, so.
Well, if you're on Facebook, Maya Catherine Bonhoff is on Facebook, and you can reach out to her. And that's I Love Thy Creation is her collection that she published.
Thank
you.
I'm
sorry, it's Juxta Publishing that did it. He's
Juxta. No, I can't use Juxta.
You can't use Juxta.
Well, it's not that I can't use Juxta. They have limited. They've limited themselves. I know who's behind. They're friends of mine. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'd have to, yeah.
The only thing I'm aware of is that there was a requirement that it refer back to the Juxta website.
Exactly.
So they could have it, but
that's the issue. Yeah.
All
Mm
right.
-hmm.
Okay, thanks for that. And Anton, please.
I have excuse me. My question is, if my memory doesn't betray me, a couple years ago, maybe more, you had a Russian Baha'i book in Russian on your website. I wonder what has happened to that book. I can't find it anymore on your website. And the second question is, do you have plans to publish books in Russian?
Yes, absolutely. I have been experimenting with Russian books, and thank you for reminding me about that. Yes, I have some friends here who are willing to help with Russian because they consider it important too. So it's all questions. It's time and resources. So I have done training sessions here to see if I could get people to help me. I have some friends who want to help with the French and the Spanish as well. So there is interest, and definitely I want to put Russian up. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but my first question.
Yes.
What has happened to that first book?
I think there was a problem with it, and I had to take it down, and we never finished fixing it. But are you saying it was okay?
I cannot say this. It was a number of years ago, so
yes,
I'm not sure.
It was up very briefly, and it was an experiment, and yeah.
Okay.
And again, because of the font and some other things, and the website WordPress that we had then, and adding in other languages became a bit of a problem. So I had to take off the Cyrillic script from the website. So, but now we've got a much better website. So we need to start exploring that. Yeah.
I see.
Thank you for asking that question. Really appreciate it, because it's I had forgotten. I had forgotten about Russian. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks. Before I move to Masood, Steve Cooney, did you have another? Are you on the list again for questions?
No.
I've got Masood and Andrew. No, you've taken off. Okay, so Masood and then Andrew, please.
Okay,
Hi,
thank you very
Masood.
much, Colleen. That was lovely to see you and hear you.
Lovely to see you too.
Thank you. My question is related to the scope of your, your collection, whatever you have done so far. Do you have a sort of a targeted approach to the books that you choose to be on the ebook? And if that is the case, I would say that, have you considered the Ruhi book series? Because they would be
have I considered the Ruhi books? Yes, of course, but no. No, okay. So I did a trial Ruhi book for consideration by the Ruhi board. And I did it because they're trying to work out, is it possible? Would this work? And I haven't heard back yet. So yes, would love to do the Ruhi books. It's obviously been something that's foremost in my mind. But at this stage, there's no instructions yet about the Ruhi books. Yeah, it would be a wonderful if I got permission. Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps one challenge would be, with Ruhi books, many of them are work in progress or, pre-publication type of episodes they have. Yes.
Well, the other thing is they were looking at how to take notes on it, and because obviously people write things and maybe it might have been better to do it in PDF rather than, because the version I was asked to do was on for a Kindle e-reader. So I looked at how to create it so that you could take notes and refer back to it. But it wasn't ideal but I do think PDF, and I see the Ruhi books are not legally released as PDFs, I don't think.
Thank you.
I think you can get some of them in PDFs, but I don't know that that's whether the Ruhi Institute agrees with that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that, Colleen. We've had a query about the painting that we see behind you.
Oh, that's a Rod Clarkin painting. Yeah.
Well done. Congratulations.
My home's full of his art, actually. Rod's a good friend.
So move to Andrew and then back to Steve Cooney.
Can you tell us a bit about the cyber attack incidents?
Yeah. I had to go to use a company to help me get rid of it, and they said it was one of the most severe hacks they'd ever come across. It wasn't, the question was who was behind it. We don't know. I'm under daily attack in my Instagram account and my Facebook page. And I don't know whether it's in relation to Baha'i ebooks or I'm just like everybody else. I don't know. But I'm constantly being asked, you're trying to change your password. We're sorry you're having difficulties. I'm like, I'm not trying to change my password. I have dual authentication on everything. I have extremely strong passwords as well. The hack was considered very serious. And in fact, so much so that this company that's a very strong web developer said they couldn't stop it. So the only thing left was to completely shut down that website, that server, that software, and abandon it and go somewhere else. Yeah, start from scratch. Very sad. Yeah.
And did they aim to pull down the site, or
they eliminated the whole catalog of books. Yeah, and they redirected people to a Viagra website. So, yeah, it was hard.
I was going to ask
Yeah.
you, did they infect any of the books or materials?
Sorry?
Did they infect any of the books or materials?
I was concerned that some might have been infected, but it didn't seem like it. No. Yeah.
All right, Steve Cooney.
Yeah, just another observation really, Colleen, about PDF versus
Mhm.
EPUB and other formats which are designed for mobile devices. You know, you get text flow and you can change the font and what have you. The downside to not having PDF versions of books is that they become difficult to cite and to use in publications because you don't really have a page. So I would encourage you to, you know, where you can, to use PDF. That's my preference for, you know, any kind of scholarly work really. So EPUB is great for on the go, at a feast, whatever, but there's still a need for camera ready, print ready, the footnotes in the right place, you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know if, I think there are some format I don't really understand, but there is, you often see publishers publishing what they call true EPUB. I don't know if you know what that means, but I know that EPUB has become an ISO standard now, but it hasn't had much change in the last 5 years. But yeah, that's just an observation. PDF is still a valuable format because it is designed to be printed. And when you're making scholarly references, you really need a page. Yeah. And I'm sure you understand that, but
I guess the idea was not that people would use the ebooks as a scholarly reference because they're all already available in print form somewhere else. But you can use and quickly find material, the source or the article or the sentence that you wanted. And then you would have to go back to the print form if you wanted to refer to a page or find it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the reality is that we have books that are print only, we have books that are digital only, and books that are both.
Mine can only be both, you know, because I can't put on the website any book that has not in print form first.
Sure.
The exception is Baha'i World volume articles.
Yeah, which I think is great because they do need some packaging because they're actually quite difficult to manage on the website. You can't take them anywhere. But if you become the authoritative source for the annual collection of Baha'i World articles, I'd be quite pleased about that. But they're also not consistently presented on the website. Some are available as PDFs, some are not, and some have hidden text and all sorts. So
it takes a bit of work creating ebooks out of those.
Yes, I can imagine. But it's good that you're doing that because there's a lot of useful content in there. That you mentioned you've got some other kind of domain names as well. So what were they?
Well, just at the end, .org, .net, .com. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we bought them all. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Louise, back to you.
I just wanted to comment on the pagination. I know that the Baha'i Reference Library doesn't have pages either, and it's because it's not linked to a particular edition or printing. And I think your books, Colleen, probably aren't linked to a particular edition or printing either. It is a problem. I know that in a lot of this digitization, they're not using pagination. And if that's the case, then the academic, you're not required to give the page number in the citation. But you know, for me, I really miss that page because I know they've done a lot of research actually on print reading and electronic reading. And one of the things they have been studying is how well you absorb what you're reading. you seem to absorb
Yes.
it better in print. And
Mhm.
so for studying, for deep reading, I like to use the print. So I look up stuff and I get where it is. I say, oh yeah, there. I wonder where exactly. And then I have to go thumbing through my print to find it. But I do like to sit down with that print and read around it, right? Because as I said in my own small presentation, the keyword searching in Baha'i writings, whether it's Baha'u'llah, the Bab, Shoghi Effendi, Abdul Baha, it doesn't always bring up the terms you want, because they use such different kind of language to describe something, right? So anyway, that's just an observation. Hopefully they will bring pages back. I do know that in the more recent ones from the World Center, the translations, they have the paragraphs all numbered.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's what you need, right? The paragraphs
yes.
numbered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can go and find.
And in fact, there's discussion about standardizing that.
Yeah.
Across various sacred. So you could say, like, whatever chapter number, whatever chapter is, and paragraph number, whatever. But yes, you're absolutely correct. That in relation to memory, people have been shown to remember print, what's in print, better than this. And it's something that I've thought a lot about, because obviously, if I'm only reading electronically, I read on a Kindle e-reader, a Paperwhite. And because you used to be able to say, look, it was on the left side of the page, it was a third of the way down, or whatever, But now it's like, yes, it was. I think it was somewhere. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. So sorry, Caroline, you said something about the Baha'i Indonesia. Baha'ibooks.net. Someone put something up about Indonesia.
Yeah, Steve just put a comment there, just noting that Baha'ibooks.net is in Indonesian.
Oh, is in Indonesian. Oh.
That's what his comment says. I'll just click on it and see.
Oh.
Steve, yeah, well.
Okay, that's interesting.
There is a site with that name, but I'm not quite sure what we're seeing there on that site.
I must check that out. Baha'ibooks.net.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. Check that out.
All right, well, I think we've come to the stage. I'll just ask if there's any final questions for Colleen or any comments before we bring the session to a close. So there's a bit of applause for you, silent applause, and thanks. Colleen, I think that what you're doing is similar in ways to other webmasters who have set on an idea and determinedly worked to bring that idea to fruition, overcome many challenges on the way, typically work on their own, but with a few supporting colleagues. And it's good to see Rod Clarkin also there with us on the presentation. I don't think, Rod, you've said very much in this presentation. We should ask you if you'd like to add anything concerning the way that you've seen Colleen do the project or your comments on it. So, before I, really bring this to a close, I'm just going to invite you if you've got any thoughts to share.
Yeah, I would. First of all, I just want to say how much I admire the work that Colleen has done. She is a phenomenal attorney and has done remarkable service at the World Center. But I think her legacy in the world, because obviously people don't know about that, will be the Baha'i e-books. I was fortunate to get to know her and work with her at the World Center. And I would try to, I want to help, but when I would sit down with her, I had no way of, the technical skills. But, for me, for instance, because I took some of the photographs that are on some of the covers, she would invite me to say, okay, well, I'm making this cover. You want to come help? And it's like, okay, I'll come help. She would spend so much time, and it'd be like, this little thing that I can't see is just not right. And she had to work on it. I actually had to leave because I couldn't take it. It's like, it's fine, leave it. But her sense of perfection, and of course, other people see it. And I think when you look at the books, you see how incredibly beautiful. I mean, they're not only correct, but they're beautiful. The kind of perseverance and tenacity that she has shown, again, I think it's hard. I couldn't do it. I can't hardly even imagine it. So kudos to her and her work. And I think it's going to continue to be a great service to humanity.
Thank you, Rod. That's a nice tribute to Colleen from someone who has worked with her and supported the project. Baha'i Books has a clarity of mission, and it has an identity that when you hear the name Baha'i Books, you get a sense of what you get a visual sense of what's going to be on the page. And that's different to some other sites that might have a mission, but you don't have a sense of visual identity, what you're going to see on that page. And so I think this is one of the impressive features of Colleen's work. And, you know, we all love Project Gutenberg. It's great, but it's a bittersweet experience to find what you want on Gutenberg, because then you're dealing with the plain text. And Colleen's moved beyond that to produce not only the text, but in a visually, aesthetically important way that makes it interesting to read. One of the comments that or themes that we've talked about in the question period here is this relationship between text reading and digital reading. And I think this is going to be an ongoing theme, that we have multiple ways of reading text for multiple purposes. You know, sometimes you do need the physical book, but other times you're mobile and you need the electronic version. And that's the complex age in which we're now doing our reading and an understanding of text. So that's an important part of it. So Colleen, thanks very much for presenting today. You know, it was a very personal presentation. You took us on your journey. You showed us the challenges that you faced and your vision for what it is, and some of the you know, not only in a sense, it's the opportunities and constraints. You're working within constraints, but you've made the most of those opportunities. And it's very admirable what you've done. And I'm just so pleased that we were able to bring you onto the series. So once again, from everybody online today, thanks so much for being part of the series.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it.
Okay, well, we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you all.
Thank you.